Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Fred Sutton, and in this video I will be showing you one of the questions that you'll have for the first exam in accounting for managers. So the problem I have up here is I put the problem up here as EX 3-28. That is on page 99. I'll give you a moment to get to your book and figure out where that is, and I'm going to kind of go over the basic parts of this problem here. There are 5 portions to this problem. I've already done some of the pre-work to it up here, so that way this video will be a little shorter, so that way you can go back and review some of the things there. So I put some of the information up here already. So I'm going to kind of read through the problem and we'll walk you through each of the steps that it requires. Alright, so the break-even analysis and target profit taxes. So this company here had sales revenue is $30 per unit. So we have $30 per unit. Variable costs are $19.50 per unit, and fixed costs are $147,000. So in the first part of the problem, it says compute Patterson's contribution margin per unit, and then the contribution margin ratio, what I have up there. So what we're going to do here is take a look at that and how to figure that out. So if you remember, I just stated that the sales price per unit is $30. So that's what I'll have here, $30, and then I will take away the variable cost. And the variable cost, if you recall what I just said, was $19.50. So I take those two away, now I have $10.50. That is now my contribution margin. So remember, that is the sales price minus the variable cost. That will give you a contribution margin. So that's what we have here. Now let's take a look at the contribution margin ratio. The contribution margin ratio is computed with this. You first need to figure out what the contribution margin per unit is, which we already have, which is $10.50. And then we will take that and divide it by the sales price, which is $30. And that gives us a 135% contribution margin ratio. All right, so that is problem A. All right, so let's take a look at problem B here. So in problem B, we determine the number of units Patterson will sell to break even. So now we got to figure out what they're going to, how much they need to sell to break even here. So as you can see, I've put some preliminary information up here. It says let X equal the number of units sold to break even. So what we're going to do is our sales revenue minus our costs need to equal 0. So that's what we're going to set it equal to. So that's my income right here is now going to be 0. All right, so now remember, if you remember correctly, what the price was for the sales units, what we talked about up here, which is 30. So there's our price. Now one thing we don't know is we don't know the quantity. Since we don't know the quantity, we are going to set X, the number sold, to that. So now we have here our variable cost. We're going to take that away. Our variable cost, remember, is 19.5. Well, we will set that to X because remember, it is times each and every one that we sell. So we have 30X minus 19.50X minus our fixed cost. Remember, our fixed cost was $147,000. And that will equal 0. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this up here just so you can take a look at that. And so I'm going to figure out what this is. So I know what 30X minus 19.5X, well, that equals contribution margin, which is 1050X. And I'm going to add 147,000 to both sides. So it brings it over here. And then I will divide both sides by $10.50. And that will give us our answer. And then our answer you should come up with is 14,000 units. As units here. So that's how many it would take us for break even. So if I were to put that back in the equation, that's what it would come out to be, is 14,000 units to break even with what our variable costs are to basically sell enough to hit our fixed cost. And that's what we're looking for here. So that is the second part of the problem. That was B. So now let's take a look at C. So determine the sales revenue required to earn pre-tax income equal to 20% of revenue. So what we're going to do is, again, let X equal the number of units sold for pre-tax revenue of 20%. So to figure this out, we have sales revenue minus cost equals income. So I have the same equation here, but there's going to be a difference. Now I'm going to put this stuff that we already had here. The difference is on this end here. My income will be a little different. But let me go ahead and put this up here. So again, we have the 30x. We don't know how many units we need. We have our 19.50x minus our $147,000 fixed cost. And then, now we've got to figure out what the income's going to be. Now remember, it's 20%. So what we will do is, we'll take the 20% here, and then we'll multiply that times how many units in the revenue we need. So we're going to take the sales right here. So 20% of this. Now what I will typically do for your calculator is I make that a 0.2, but I want you to be able to visually see that. That's the 20%, and that's where it comes in. All right, so let's continue on. Moving through here. So I have 1050x minus my 147,000, and that equals 20% of 6x, 30x is 6x. I'm jumping a little forward here. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to subtract 6x from this, and then subtract 6x from here. So that will give me 4.5x, excuse me. And then I will add 147 to both sides. And that gives me 147. So I have 450x divided by 147,000. So I'll divide both sides by 450. That's a dot. And then I will figure out what that's going to be for how many units I need to sell. Now, you can round this here. I think it should be 32,667. That's how many units we have to sell. All right, but that wasn't the total question. The question was, well, what's the desired revenue for that? Well, to figure that out, I will take it over here. So my desired revenue is 30. That's how much it costs, because revenue is our sales. That's per unit, times this number that we have here, 32,667. And that will give me my desired revenue that I would need to have. That's what you should come up with, which is 980,010. That's how you would calculate that. So remember, same thing. The difference is over here in the income, we must set that equal to the percentage of our sales. And then we calculate it all out, take that, those units that we have, times how much they cost per unit, and then multiply those out, and that gives us the 980,010. All right, the next problem here on letter D, it says how many units must Patterson sell to generate an after-tax profits of $109,200 if the tax rate is 35%. All right, so I've done some of the startup for us here again. So let X equal the number of units sold after the tax profit of $109,200. And so what I have here is my before tax income. I'm going to multiply that times the 1 minus 0.35, which is 35%. So I basically want to figure out what it's going to take for me to get this. This is my after-tax profit. So I need to figure out what my before tax is going to be. So I need to figure that out. So this is my, I'll call it my BTI, shorten it up a little bit, and we'll multiply that times 0.65 after I take the 1 minus 0.35. And then I have 109,200. So I'll divide both sides by 0.65. And that will give me my desired profit before tax. So that would come out to be 168,000. All right, so then what do I need to do? The next step again is to figure out what we've done before. So I'm going to take the 30x minus my 19.50x minus my 147,000, and then set that equal to 168,000. That is what I'm going to do to figure out what that is. So now I'm going to add the 147 to both sides here, which will give me 315,000, looks like. Actually, I'm going to move this over to the side here, make it a little easier to see. So I've added 147, so I've eliminated that 147, and then I've added to this side also. And now that equals our contribution margin, basically. So it's a 1050 X. And then I'm going to divide each side by 1050, and that will give us the amount of units that we need to generate an after-tax profit of 109,200. And so that number is 30,000 units. So again, same equation, walked ourselves through it, and we came up with the different values for that. So that is letter D. All right, so the last portion of the problem here. So E, Patterson is considering increasing its advertising expense by 38,500. How much of an increase in sales units is necessary from the expanding advertising to justify the expenditure? So basically to generate an incremental contribution margin of 38,500. All right, so what we're going to do here is I've set this up a little bit already for you. So we let Y, this time I use Y, equal the necessary increase in units sold. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the incremental sales revenue minus the incremental variable cost. I shorten this because I don't have a lot of room over here, and the incremental fixed cost. So BC is variable cost, FC is fixed cost. All right, so what we're going to do now is figure out what that's going to be. So all we're going to do is the incremental fixed cost. Remember that incremental fixed cost was 38,500. We set that equal to 0. Remember my incremental sales revenue, which would be our normal 30x minus our 19.5, excuse me, I should put this Y. And so we'll continue moving forward. Now what you're going to see here is that we've combining those two. I'm going to add 38,500 both sides. So that leaves me the $10.50 Y. Divide that by 1050. Divide this by 1050. And that means Y, which is the amount we have to sell, equals 3,667 units that must be sold to make up this difference for adding that additional in there. Obviously, we have some other things we need to sell for the break-even analysis, but basically to sell additional things, we need to sell additional 3,667 units to cover the costs of that additional marketing. All right, this is chapter 3, one of the problems for chapter 3, and I hope this has assisted you. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you and take care.